May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be always acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. So with all of the world rushing to Christmas, let me remind you that we're not at Christmas yet. We're in Advent. 4 weeks before Christmas, not shopping days till Christmas, because Christmas doesn't start till the eve of Christmas on the 24th, and it goes to January 26th. That's where the 12 days come in. So now we're in Advent, a very special season in which three ways of our thinking about time converge. We think about time usually as past, present, or future. And so in Advent, all three of these come together, and we focus on all three of these at the same time, because it's in all three of these times that Christ comes. So we look back to the past, and that's where we get the idea of waiting, like with Advent calendars and Advent candles, marking time until we get to the celebration of Jesus' birth, which we celebrate an event from the past. We look in the future to a time when God will bring everything into completion, and we hear about that in today's gospel. A time when God will take everything that is and make it a new creation, turn everything kind of upside down on its ear. So that the ways that we usually go about doing business, which often creates a break in the harmony that God intends, all of those will be cast out, and everything will be brought into complete harmony with something new. And we get that wonderful language in that, in the beginning of that passage we read today, that poetic language of things just being turned up on its ear, everything just being turned upside down. Because when something really new breaks into our life, that's what happens. Our life just sort of turns upside down. Remember when a new baby was brought home in any family? The whole household was turned upside down. And so when God does something new, everything gets turned upside down. So that's the future, that second coming, when things will be turned upside down and God will bring everything into completion. But between past and future is where we actually live, the now, the present. And so Advent is also about Christ coming to us in the now, about Christ coming into our lives in the present. In fact, in one of our Christmas carols, there's a verse, I think it's the second or third verse, that talks about Christ being born in us today. So this message that we get on the first Sunday of Advent about keep awake is a message that recalls times when people kept awake in the past. It certainly does. The shepherds, they had not been awake to the possibility that angels could exist, would have just freaked out and covered up their heads and rolled down their hill with their sheep. Mary, if she had not been open to God working in her life and bringing something new, would have maybe not agreed to do what she did. She was 14 years old. Probably scared her to death. It certainly turned her life upside down. But she was awake to God acting in what was happening in her life. So we see that theme in the past of people being awake. And if they hadn't been awake, they would have missed it. And then in the future, we see the need to be awake in the terms of being ready, to be ready to live life differently, so that when it comes, we're able to live it. But here we are in the present. And this is where we most need to figure out how to keep awake. And we tend to go to sleep. We go to sleep, to our present, to our now. We tend to let thoughts about our past pull us back into remembrance of the past so much that we get a gap between being present to the now and being caught up in the past, thinking about how we could have said things differently, thinking about maybe how we wish things had been instead of the way they were. Or we let our thoughts grab us and take us off into the future, either with fears and anxieties about something that we're afraid is going to happen, or sometimes with expectations and fantasies about what we would like to have happen. And whenever we do that, we fall asleep to the present. Now, I know you've experienced this on some level. You ever been in the car, you've been driving along, and all of a sudden you go, oh gosh, how did I get here? You've been thinking about something else the whole time. You've actually been asleep driving. But we do it in more cases than just driving. Some of us are doing it probably right now, where something I have said has flipped in your mind and you're off chasing a thought back that way or back this way and have become asleep to the present and to what's going on. So Advent, this message of Advent to keep awake, is most powerfully felt for us when we practice how do we keep awake to the present? How do we keep awake to the now? Because the truth is that what we see as the past was there now. And what we see as the future will be our now. The only place we ever really live is in the now, regardless of where our thoughts are. So how much of life are we missing when we are asleep to the now? Throughout Advent, we're going to take this thing, and we're going to look at these words that go with the candles, because they are words about how Christ comes into our life, and Christ comes into our life now. And we're going to practice a little bit what it is to keep awake to that now. So this person was hope. What does it mean to keep awake to hope in the here and now? The first thing we have to do to figure that out is to realize that there's a difference between hoping for something and hoping in something. A good bit of the time we hope for things. Like I got up this morning and I saw the clouds and I was hoping for it not to rain. Okay? And you know, I can't really control that, can I? It's either going to rain or it's not going to rain. Now, in the now of the rain, I can make a decision to pick up an umbrella. But I can waste a lot of time worrying about whether it's going to rain or not when there's nothing I can do about it at all. So hoping for something can trap us. Hoping for sends us to the future and out of the now. And what we hope for can either happen or not happen, and when it doesn't happen, we can get disillusioned, and then we get caught in the past, thinking of all the past disillusionments, and again, we're totally asleep to the now. So just for some examples, I'm going to let you talk back to me in Advent. Throw out some things that you hope for. What do you hope for in life?
Happiness.
Happiness. Okay, what else?
Good health.
Good health. What else? Somebody over at the other church said to be debt-free this morning. I see that several of you.
Family time.
And do what?
Family time.
And family time. Okay. See, right now, you have some of those things, you don't have some of the others, but if you're caught up in hoping for them, you're missing what's happening now. Because the hope that we're talking about here is not so much a hoping for, it's a hoping in, like a trusting in. It's a hoping in that moment. And if you're awake to that hope, what you're awake to is that in every moment there is a possibility for something to be enjoyed. And in every moment there is a possibility for peace, for a stillness that escapes us when we're caught up in our thoughts about future or caught up in our thoughts about past. That's the kind of hope that's the Advent hope. That's the kind that we want to practice being awake to. Awake to hope that happens in the present moment. Now, how do you do that? Here's a couple of ways. The first way is just to notice what you're thinking. Sometimes we just think stuff without even realizing that we're thinking it. And so the first step is to wake up to what you're thinking. And if what you're thinking is something that's producing negative thoughts and feelings, and it's not something you can do anything about right then, I mean, if it's something you can do about, then go do it. Don't worry about it, just do it if it's something you can handle right then. If it's not, then step back from that thought. Step back and ask, who would I be without that thought that's just leading me into a place of no hope? For example, if I catch myself thinking about what am I going to do if it rains today and it's going to mess up the parade and stuff like that, I can't do anything. But if I step back from that thought, I can ask, who would I be without that thought? Who would I be with being here right now and not worrying about whether at 2 or 3 this afternoon it's going to rain? Well, I would be a person free of that worry, and I would be a person free to be present right now. A person free to look into your eyes and see the people that are here, and to be with you in the present. For just a minute, whatever you're thinking now, which could be she's crazy, or I'll never remember to do that, notice what you're thinking right now. Whatever it is, just step back from it a minute. Let that thought go. And I want you to look into the face of someone near to you. Maybe someone you know, maybe you have to turn around, but not mine. Look into somebody else's face that's near you. Just look into their face. You have just awakened in this moment to looking into one of the deepest mysteries God has ever created. The mystery of human life. The mystery of human beings. The mystery of being able to come together and to really look at each other, which we typically are too busy to even take time to do because we're too caught up in worrying about past or future. But in this present moment, you have just looked into the mystery of one of God's great creations. Maybe somebody you love. Maybe somebody you have a relationship with. Maybe somebody you just see here on Sunday morning. But if we hadn't taken time to do that, you would have missed it. You would have missed that mystery, and it's in that mystery and mysteries like it that we get the coming of Christ. And so I have a challenge for you in this first week of Advent. Set some things for yourself. Maybe it's your alarm on your phone to go off, or maybe it's just, if you don't deal with cell phones, maybe it's just a string around your finger or something, or maybe it's just times of the day, like when you get up, or at lunch, or in the early evening, or at night. But at particular times of the day, stop and notice what you're thinking. And if it's something that is leading you into worry and anxiety and needless thoughts that have just diminished the hope of the present, step back from it. Step back from that thought. Consciously notice what you're thinking, and if it's the one that's leading you away out someplace else, just step back from it a minute and pay attention to what's going on right in your life. What is there to enjoy? It might be a beautiful scene outside your window. It might be the way the wood fields on your desk. There will be something there when you step back to enjoy. And when you step back, there will be a peace there that often escapes you. And it's in those moments when we step back from the thoughts that catch us up in the past and the future and are totally present to the present, those are the moments in which Christ comes. Come, Lord Jesus.